I'm Alex Heinert, and this is Midco Sports Network. For football fans across the country, Christmas has arrived a few days early this year. Good morning and a merry National Signing Day to you all. I'm Alex Heinert, coming to you live from our MidcoSN studios in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be bringing you wall-to-wall UND football coverage, including conversations with the coaches and regional high school football experts about the incoming recruiting class and how this group fits in to the current Fighting Hawk roster. Of course, this is officially signing day headquarters for UND football, and for proof, you can look no further than our MidcoSN conference room. Head coach Bubba Schweigert and his staff have been here since the early morning hours, fielding texts, emails, and maybe a fax or two from a group of 20-plus future Fighting Hawks that have made their verbal commitment to the program official this morning. We'll be hearing a lot more from the men in that room coming up. So quickly though, for the uninitiated out there, this is the first year the NCAA has allowed an early signing period for football. And while the second half of signing day is still going to take place on the first Wednesday in February, the main event for a lot of programs around the country, including North Dakota, is today. And as you can imagine, that has led to a couple of changes in approach for coaching staffs, including for the one here in Grand Forks.
The early signing period now has kind of sped things up. Now it had been kind of going this direction for a few years now, but for a lot of these kids now, it's wanting to make their decisions June, July, August, and accelerating it that way. And then for us, obviously, we're trying to fill holes and needs in our team as well. So we're trying to put together as many kids as we can to the early signing period here in December. And then from there, obviously, we're going to still have some needs afterwards, but to be able to have it settled a little bit at that point, it really clears up the picture for us recruiting going forward.
I think it's kind of forced you to start the relationship process a little bit sooner. I think a lot of these people that you will see sign with us are people that we had on campus about this time last year. So, I think from that standpoint, there is more of a sense of urgency to get things done. But, I think it's going to be a good thing overall for college football, because at this point in time, you pretty much should have set what you want to do, and it kind of eliminates the stress of checking up on guys and things of that nature.
Well, some of the stress already this morning taken off these coaches' plates. It's been a pretty easy morning for this group. They've done the work already, and they're seeing the fruits of that labor coming forth this morning. Before we get, though, into that group of student athletes that have officially committed to play their college football for the University of North Dakota, we need to look back to what took place last year on the field for the Fighting Hawks. Coming off a Big Sky title and a 9-3 record in 2016, UND was the preseason favorite to repeat as conference champs. Kind of a seemingly never-ending stream of injuries derailed the year before it could really get going. But despite the hardships on the scoreboard, still a lot of positives to take from the 2017 campaign, not the least of which a trio of North Dakota standouts recognized by the Big Sky Conference. And you see here John Santiago, one of them, third straight year that the outstanding junior running back was named a first-team all-conference running back for the Big Sky, just the fifth player in the 55-year history of the conference. John, by the way, led the FCS in all-purpose yards again last season. Tank Harris, a second-team pick 2 years ago, third team on the defensive line last year. Another big season for the junior D-tackle. Tank coming in with a career-high 30 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. And then Tanner Palmberg, first time he's been recognized by the Big Sky for his accomplishments. Third-team all-conference last year, one of only 2 players, you talk about the injuries, only one of 2 to start all 11 games. Tied for the team lead with 8.5 tackles for loss last year. A kid who's coming back to help lead this defense on the outside. Plus, as you see the numbers here, John Santiago not just recognized by the Big Sky, but recognized across the country. 3 All-American honors and counting for the junior from St. Francis, Minnesota. And again, he's just getting started. Still another season of eligibility left for all 3 of these outstanding players for North Dakota. These guys, of course, are coming back. There are some great players from UND who are not, and tough to say goodbye to a group that really has been outstanding in their career. You think about what Keaton Studsrud's done, being a 4-year starter for this team at quarterback. Another outstanding season for number 7. A guy that you just knew week in, week out was going to perform with his legs and with his arm. Keaton obviously moving on to a graduate degree now coming up for the University of North Dakota in the future. One of his main targets over the last 2 years, DeMund Mercer, another big season for him this past season. Led the team in receptions last year, over 1,000 yards receiving in his 2 years. Cole Reyes, the guy that only featured in 3 games this past season, of course, because of injury, still made a big impact, of course, the 2016 Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky Conference. Jake Disterop, a guy that was banged up for a lot of this season like so many of his teammates, Able to make plays, though, really from his freshman season until his senior year. UND also graduating a couple of outstanding defensive ends that have been staples for this team since their true freshman year. Brandon Dranka and Drew Greeley, both previously recognized by the Big Sky for their accomplishments. And you can't go through this list without talking about, again, the safety, Chuck Flowers, who stepped in as a starter in his senior season, had 3 interceptions in back-to-back games midway through the campaign. And you got to talk about the specialists as well. North Dakota graduating all 3 of their starting specialists from a year ago. Reed Taubenheim, an honorable mention pick this past year in the Big Sky. Also Jacob Holman, of course, the long snapper. Austin Dusel, the punter, all those guys moving on to their careers, to the rest of life. As you take a look now, because of those guys moving on, a couple of positions of need for this North Dakota program. And we mentioned, of course, injuries were a big thing last year. Linebacker was a spot where they got banged up early and often. They graduated a couple of guys that started games last year. 8 different starters in those positions a season ago. At safety, you lose your 2 starting safeties in Cole Reyes and Chuck Flowers. And then specialists, we already mentioned, Taubenheim, Dusel, Holman, all moving on. So with those guys out, how did the coaching staff address that? Well, with this class of 2018, and we talk about the linebacking position being so key for this 3-4 defense, here are the group of guys they chose to bring in to try and round out that core. And it's a good one, a good group of kids at that linebacker spot when you look at what they've brought in. A kid from Colorado and Ted Mullen, a kid from Wisconsin and Mike Bruner, and a kid also from Wisconsin, Caden White. And White's a kid, as we take a look at some of the video, as you look at these guys, all 3 of these guys, 6 foot, big, athletic, rangy. Mike Bruner was a kid that originally committed to Iowa after his sophomore season, one of their first commits. Things sort of didn't work out there for both parties, ended up reopening his commitment, and North Dakota happy to have him, a big athletic guy that projects to be an outside linebacker here in Grand Forks, and a guy they like a lot, an all-state type of a kid. Ted Mullen, a kid that played running back and linebacker for Littleton, Colorado for Columbine High School, same high school as current redshirt freshman Mikey Greibel, a guy that they really like a lot. Again, another big athletic kid at 6 foot 190 who's going to continue to grow into a big frame, big rangy athlete that North Dakota likes in those positions. And then Caden White, one of 2 kids from Sun Prairie High School in Wisconsin, another guy who played a lot of secondary in high school, played for one of the best big schools in the state of Wisconsin, Sun Prairie High School. They expect him to put on some weight and be a difference maker at the linebacker position. Secondary, mentioned a position of need as well. They bring in a lot of guys, both freshmen and JUCO kids, and a lot of talent on this group going top to bottom. A couple of kids from the state of Wisconsin, led by CJ Siegel, who they project as a cornerback. Siegel, a kid that really flashed in camp, shows a lot of skill both on the ball and with the ball in his hands. Could be a future return guy for this North Dakota team. Also a great basketball player, another one of those guys who's a multi-sport athlete out of La Crosse Logan High School in the state of Wisconsin. Along with Siegel, also coming from out east, Jacob Oden from Wheaton, Illinois, another guy who played a lot of receiver, played a little bit of corner, as they project him to be either a safety guy or a cornerback at North Dakota. Another one of those kids that can just do a lot of different things on both sides of the football, adding some much needed speed to the secondary for Bubba Schweigert and company. And then along with Odom, we mentioned Caden White, his high school teammate, Caden Coppin, and a couple of Cadens coming from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Caden played a lot of corner and wide receiver in high school. They project him as another one of those big safeties at 6'2", 185 at this level, another all-state kid out of a state runner-up team at Sun Prairie. And then one of the JUCO kids that has committed already today, they expect a couple more to come in from the secondary, but Lenny Nelson got his national letter of intent in this morning, a 5'11" cornerback out of Roseville, California, guy that had 6 picks last year, great ball skills, again, in the California JUCO ranks. When you look at the defensive line, and again in the 3-4 for Eric Schmidt, D-line's where it starts. They brought in a bunch of guys last year at that position, a lot of whom we expect to be very good next year, but 2 more coming in this season, Griffin Lickfeld and Ryan Schoenfelder. Lickfeld, a kid out of Indiana, Schoenfelder from Minnesota. And again, it's one of those positions that you can never have enough guys. And Lickfeld was a kid who this morning, 6:01 a.m. Central Time, 7:01 a.m. Eastern Time, he got his letter of intent in and signed, and said a guy that's really excited to be a Fighting Hawk. Great motor. Again, 6'1", 245. He's going to put on some weight and become a difference maker up front for this team in the future. And then Ryan Schoenfelder, a kid from Goodhue, Minnesota, small school, played both sides of the football, devastating on the defensive side. Some people projected him as maybe being a tight end. He played that position very well at the high school level, but they think this kid's going to be a great defensive end in a couple of years. Just 215, but another guy who's going to grow into a Division I body. On the offensive side of the football, Receiver has been a position of strength over the last couple of seasons for UND. They've done a great job of getting guys who have developed into being top quality players at the FCS level. A couple of more kids that we expect more of the same. And it's led by Garrett Mogg, a 6'5" player out of West St. Paul, Minnesota. An outstanding basketball player, a guy that just goes up and gets the football. And you look at 6'5", 205, so not just tall and lean, but tall and already with a college football type body. Kid that played for a St. Croix Lutheran team that did not throw the football very much, but when they did, he found the end zone. Double-digit touchdowns last year for Mogg. Noah Sickler, an in-state kid out of Dickinson Trinity, played both sides of the football for the Titans, led that team to the state semifinals this year. A great track athlete as well, a kid who they project to be another guy that just adds a little bit of athleticism to this receiving core. Had a couple, we're going to hear more about him, by the way, from Jody Norstead coming up in just a little bit. And then also another in-state kid in Tyler Burrian out of Grand Forks, Red River, 6'4", 205, a guy that just keeps growing and getting better. A bit of a project right now. He's going to be a preferred walk-on for this North Dakota team. But again, a guy they think can really develop into a good football player at this level. Up front, one of the big things, of course, for North Dakota is size. Bring in big kids that can make a difference. And that's the case again with this group. Donnie Ventrelli, Matt Waletzko, and Rain Slater out of Winnipeg. Just a big group of kids that, again, anytime when you bring in offensive linemen, it's going to take a bit for them to develop. But Matt Waletzko is a kid at 6'7", 310 out of Rocori High School by the St. Cloud area that just mauls people. He's just a huge human being. And they think, again, with his footwork, he's a 3-sport star, by the way, with basketball, baseball, and football, a guy they think that can really develop into a player at the tackle position. Donnie Ventrelli out of Como Park High School in St. Paul. Didn't play much offensive line. He was a tight-ended linebacker in high school, but they think he's going to be a great offensive guard for this team. And then Slater from Manitoba, a kid that they like a lot as well. And then especially, we've already mentioned, Cade Peterson, Ross Hinders. North Dakota needed to get a couple of guys at the punter and long snapper position with Austin Dussold and Jacob Holden graduating. Peterson's a great get for this team, a punter from Kewaskum, Wisconsin, that had a 75-yarder in the opening kick of the season that you see here. A great athlete. He's going to be a state qualifier in the 200 meters this year, a sub-23-second 200-meter runner. Also played linebacker and receiver for his high school team. And then Ross Hinders, a long snapper from Johnston, Iowa, that North Dakota has had their eye on for a long time. A kid that's committed early in the process, had been to a couple of camps here at UND. It's a position where you have to have somebody that is effective and consistent, and they think they've got a good one in Hinders out of the state of Iowa. Well, there's the full list right now, and of course, this is only part one. Part two's coming in February, so and of course the day is still young, so we still expect maybe a few more names to sign as the day goes on, and of course a couple more coming in on the second part of the signing day period. So that's a lot of stuff there to get through. We're just getting started, of course, here on UND Football Signing Day. Stick around. Head coach Bubba Schweigert is going to join us right after the break. Don't go anyplace.
This new dad is picturing a tree house in the sky, but he's ignoring the instructions. Good luck, big guy. His kids know that he's building without a clue. Never been so good with nails and glue. Now we're trapped inside a box. I hope mom knows what to do. Mom! See, you don't have to be perfect to be the perfect parent.
Thousands of siblings in foster care will take you just as you are.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If the door's locked, knock first, don't burp, don't swear, don't stare, don't use bad language, or talk with your mouth full, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
Don't interrupt. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give your seat up to anybody who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you want to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
Good talk.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked thrown up against the wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Well, it is an exciting day across the country for college football players making that commitment to their school of choice. And of course, the guy that is leading the charge here in Grand Forks, head coach Bubba Schweigert, getting set to start year number 5 here at North Dakota. First of all, congratulations. An exciting day, the culmination of a lot of hard work for you and this staff.
Well, thank you, Alex. It is a lot of hard work. Recruiting is such a vital part of the program. And our assistant coaches did a great job of setting up this signing class, and this process really starts, in January of 2017, and then we get to this point. A little different this year with the early signing day, so we had a lot of hard work that took place the last few weeks to keep guys committed. It just was January for us, moved to December.
Yeah, things obviously having to adjust a little bit because of that. Talking quickly just about this team as a whole, I know last season was a tough year coming off a Big Sky title and injuries kind of piled up and things didn't go your way. What, if anything, have you and this staff learned from that experience, and what do you want to see your team learn from the 2017 campaign?
Well, you never take anything for granted and have to keep working day by day, which we put on our T-shirt. We put it on everything, and we really need to focus on that one day at a time and keep getting better. But the overall picture, we need better depth on our football team, and you do that through recruiting and developing your guys. So, and this was something that going into the season that we knew if certain guys were unable to play the entire year, that was going to be a real challenge for us. And some of those things happened, and we had to play a lot of younger guys early in the year, and they got a lot of experience. But ideally, you would have liked to get them in some action and get some reps, quality reps, until they were in there full time. But it is what it is, what happened, and right now we're working hard at improving the depth of our football team at all positions.
Well, that's the best part, I think, about a day like today. You can sort of put whatever happened in the past and just start to look forward and get excited about this coming season. And when you look at this class as a whole and the work your staff has done to bring this group in, if you were going to kind of characterize this group, I feel like last year it was all about speed. You brought in a lot of speed guys. This year it feels like size is kind of the main thread needle that sort of goes through all these kids.
Yeah, it sure is. Up front on the offensive line, we think 2 of the 3 bodies are really big people that we're going to need to compete at a high level in the FCS, and then we think Donnie's has great growth potential. It'll probably take him a bit longer, but we're sure excited about his athleticism and his frame, and that was one thing we needed to do. And you look at the defensive side, at linebacker, the size and the growth potential of the guys. We think Mike Bruner has great size and athleticism, and Caden White and Teddy Mullen, those guys are able to move their feet, and they're going to grow. These guys, when they get to college and get into our weight program and we develop them, that helps us a great deal. And then at safety, we've got some rangy guys that will really, really flourish in our system. And yet we didn't ignore the speed at all. With Siegel out of La Crosse, he's very athletic and a really good basketball player. And we have had so much good fortune to have multi-sport athletes join our program, and they're competitive and they're athletic and really can learn and adjust to our system well.
Yeah, you mentioned that going after kids that are multi-sport, multi-talented in different areas, not just football players. That's always been a mantra for your teams over the last couple of years. Same thing with trying to find kids that just love football. It feels like those are kind of the main things that you look for. Is that still the case? I'm assuming this year anything changed because of signing day moving up or anything like that?
It sure is, and our guys did a good job of identifying guys. We get to a lot of camps in the summertime. We get guys in our camps, to see guys like Griffin Lickfeld out of Indiana. Just loves football. He's a ham and egger. He's going to compete hard, and we, got Schoenfelder out of southern Minnesota, out of Goodhue, you know, 9-man player, but we think he's going to really develop into just a tough football player. And these guys, they compete in other sports. You know, Mog on the basketball floor is really dominant with athleticism and reminds us a lot of some of our current players. And these guys are important, you know, but we always don't want to ignore the state of North Dakota too. We're excited about Noah Sickler's commitment out of Dickinson Trinity. He was in our camp and did a good job. And one thing about these guys within a 5-hour radius and the guys who we've had on our campus that get here, they really want to be here and want to be fighting Hawks, and that's really important as we move our football program forward.
Is there anything you've seen making that switch from a February signing day to December? Has that changed your process at all?
Well, I think so. You know, for the head coach, getting out into homes much earlier in December was really key to what we attempted to do, and we try to get in all the homes, and you know, it becomes really how January was. And you know, you keep recruiting guys right up into signing day, and we did a good job of that. And we still have some work to do in this signing class, but for the most part, we've got the bulk of it done. And you know, we took some transfers here that are going to really help us. They'll be in second semester, and we'll be able to, you know, evaluate those guys early in the semester in our workouts, and then you move forward and try to fill in some gaps that you have yet and try to get some really good players added to the program.
Yeah, I've noticed today as we look around the country, different schools, maybe taking, you know, 10, 12 guys or so. You've chosen to go a little bit bigger. Any particular reason to front load this class?
Well, because I think we did a good job with evaluation. Yeah. We're going to sign guys, and we approach this signing date like it is our signing day. And that's the way we approach it with all the young men we were recruiting. And these guys were on board and chose to sign and be committed. And we're really pleased with those guys because they really want to be at the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, Bubba Schweigert, head coach of UND, talking signing day. And when you look at this group of kids, a group that's still going to grow, of course, over the rest of today and into February a little bit, are there a couple of kids who you look at and think this kid has got a great chance to help us in the 2018 season?
Well, you look at the guys that are physically probably ahead of some others, but you know, we look at C.J. Siegel as a guy that can help us early in his career just because how athletic he is, but obviously we want to get him stronger in a hurry. But Garrett Mogg is physically one of those guys. Mike Bruner is real physical at this point. You know, Ryan Slater, big physical offensive lineman out of Winnipeg. And those are the guys that, some of them, and there's others too that stick out physically. They're more developed and probably a little bit farther ahead of some of the other guys. But we always get some surprises in fall camp.
One of the things, too, I think people sometimes forget about, there was a great group of freshman kids you brought in last year, and a lot of those kids have just been spending the year getting bigger and stronger and learning the system. I think we can expect a couple of impact redshirt freshmen to really make a difference this year.
Well, we think so. You know, Mikey Greibel showed some real promise in fall camp in 2017, and then unfortunately tweaked the hamstring, and you know, he's made good progress now, and we look for good things from him. And there's others that we're really excited to see them in spring ball and how they develop.
I know the season's not that far away. It's going to be a different type of a season, officially an FCS independent this year, not in the Big Sky, although playing a Big Sky schedule. Going to be kind of a unique year, still going to all the same spots, just not playing for a conference championship this season.
Yeah, for us, does it really change? No, it really doesn't, because we want to win one game a week. And we think we have a great schedule, a challenging schedule, and we're getting ready for that one day at a time. Our guys are off on our break right now, but we're sure looking for a great workout on January 9th when they all return to campus, and they'll be joined by these transfers coming in.
Yeah, I suppose that's what's next, I'm sure. This group just does not stop. It's never an off season for this coaching staff. I know workouts are going to be starting, as you said, before we know it. That's got to keep you excited and motivated to see these kids coming in and working hard to try and get better in the off season like this.
Well, sure is. This is when you build your team. You know, we don't really have an off season. We have a winter season, we have a spring season, summer season, and then we have the regular season. And this is really an important time for us to build the 2018 team.
Well, a big day certainly towards that. Again, Coach, we appreciate the time as always. Congratulations again on a great signing day class. Keep getting those kids coming in.
All right, thank you very much.
Bubba Schweigert. Well, keeping guys in state has always been a priority for UND football. This year, of course, no different. To touch on now on the prep athletes that are staying close to home to play their college ball in Grand Forks, let's go to West Bar right now to check in with Midco Sports Network's North Dakota High School expert, Jody Norstead. Jody?
Thanks, Alex. Bubba Schweigert has certainly hit on some good ones in North Dakota in recent years. Hazen Stetson Carr and Austin Cieslak have played well. Jamestown's Noah Wanzik had 5 touchdowns last year. And then, of course, South's James Johannesson bolstered that backfield a year ago. So how about the next group? We know of 3 in-state commits already. 2 signing today. 1 is planning to sign in February. Let's start with Noah Sickler, a wide receiver and defensive back from Dickinson Trinity who will receive a partial scholarship. Sickler is 6'2", 180 pounds. It sounds like they're going to use him as a receiver. So decent height, but they'll definitely want him to get stronger. Noah Wanzik is a good example. They were able to add 15 pounds on him from his true freshman season out of Jamestown to his sophomore year. If Sickler redshirts, he could be at that weight in his first year on the field. To give you an idea of his playmaking abilities, in one game earlier this year, Sickler had 3 catches for 81 yards, 2 of those going for touchdowns. He added 3 interceptions on defense and then had 2 return touchdowns on special teams. Again, all of that was just in one game, so he is an absolute stud, and you can't coach speed, and Sickler already has it. He placed 2nd in the 400-meter dash at state track last year and looks like a favorite this year to win it. The Fighting Hawks have 2 commits from the 3A level. Let's talk about Fargo South's Victor Isaac, a 6'1", 205-pound linebacker who plans to sign in February. Interesting background on Victor. He played his freshman season at Shanley, transferred to Fargo South for their swimming program, and had to sit out his sophomore season from football because of the transfer. In the meantime, he meets Bruins head coach Troy Mattern, develops a huge passion for football, returns to the field his junior season, and what does he do? He leads the EDC in tackles with 96 of them. He follows that up with a conference best 93 tackles this year. Isaac has a high ceiling, guys. He battled through some injuries, was still one of the best players in the state. He's a fast, athletic linebacker, which really fits the mold for UND's 3-4 defense. The other in-state player joining UND is a preferred walk-on, Tyler Burrian, a 6'4", 205-pound wideout from Red River High School. Burrian committed back in July. He put pen to paper this morning. Tyler's dad, Steve, is a UND Hall of Famer. He was a standout in shot put for the track and field team for UND. Tyler runs about a 4.6 40. He's one of those guys that you can mold into a good receiver, a red zone target, and you know he's going to be anxious to make an impact for his hometown team. So that's a look at the in-state commits for the Fighting Hawks. Don't be surprised if you see a few more sign on in February. Alex, back to you.
Hey, thanks, Jody. For the full picture on signing day across the Dakotas, Jody, Jason, and Dara, the rest of our MidcoSN team will be working the beat tonight from 6 to 7 on Midco Sports Tonight. That's must-see TV for college football fans in this region. Well, the state of Minnesota has been a fertile recruiting ground for UND over the years. 34 players on last year's roster hailed from the Gopher State. 4 more Minnesotans have signed on to play in Grand Forks this year. And for more on those recruits, here's Jim Paulson from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune.
A lot of really good, talented players gravitate towards the Dakota schools, and they've had some great opportunities. And a lot of times people here in Minnesota will look and say, well, how did that kid slip by us? There is a lot of talent in Minnesota, and the Dakota universities have benefited from that. Garrett Mogg, I've been watching him for a couple of years, and he's a terrific athlete. If I can compare him to somebody, I might compare him to a Jake Weineke, who's just lighting it up for South Dakota State. And he's got great body control, runs terrific routes, a lot faster than people think he is. You know, he adjusts well to the ball in the air, and you split him outside, and he's a matchup nightmare for smaller defensive backs. You know, the bigger guys can't cover him because he's too fast, and the little guys you can just go over the top of. And like I said, he's got some wheels too. He's not just a big guy. He's a big guy that can run. He's got great hands. I think he's definitely the type of guy that you're going to want to see on the outside. He's a guy that can play and can really create some mismatches for a quarterback. St. Croix Lutheran runs a very precise veer option offense where they don't throw the ball very well, but they would run Mogg split out to the side here, and he can stretch the defense. If you committed too much inside on the run, or you committed to the quarterback coming down the line, he would get behind you and run away from guys. I do think Garrett Mogg is the type of player that could, over the course of time, become a serviceable, good Big Ten wide receiver because he does have good hands and he is surprisingly fast. North Dakota is looking for size, obviously. Matt Waletzko blots out the sun, man. He's 6'7", 6'7 and a half. He weighs about 325, and he's just a big, strong kid, and comes from a good football program. He's smart, plays basketball, so he's got a good awareness of footwork and playing in space. offensive tackle. I think that he's definitely, I don't think he's a project, to put it that way. I think he's a guy that within a year or two you can see him moving into the starting lineup, because when he gets his hands on you, man, it's over. And a kid like Schoenfelter, he's a wrestler too, so he knows how to work. He's not a kid that's going to rest on his laurels. You know, you're not a wrestler without having a work ethic. He knows how to play in space. He knows how to use his hands, and he's got good size. I think he's got the ability to put on a few pounds. I think that for a kid that is playing at a lower level, I think that Goodhue plays at the next to lowest level in football in Minnesota. He really seems polished. He surprises people with his speed. He had a 93-yard touchdown reception in the state tournament quarterfinals this year that I think surprised everybody, because he ran away from defensive backs. He's a kid that has an awful lot of upside. And again, the transition from small-town Minnesota or small-town football to college football is a pretty big transition, but he seems like he's got the tools to be able to make it. I've seen Donnie Ventrelli play. He is a difference maker when he lines up a linebacker or a defensive end. Teams run away from him. He's big and he's strong. He can overwhelm offensive tackles, and he can go over and through them. He was great side to side. He rushes very well, and he can chase backs down and goes laterally. He's a terrific athlete. And I think he had 13 sacks. He had 45 tackles this year, and doesn't sound like a lot, but they ran away from him most of the time. You know, hey, North Dakota's got a good one coming there.
Good stuff from Jim Paulson at the Star Trib. Donnie Ventrelli video there. He's so explosive that he just shakes up the whole screen. It's crazy. We're going to take a break. When we come back, though, UND offensive coordinator Paul Rudolph's going to stop by the studio. The UND Signing Day special rolls on next.
It's your labor of love, your passion project, something you would do for free. But even if running your own business doesn't feel like work, it still needs to work. Midco Business Internet is fast and reliable. Count on it 24/7 to keep your business open for business. Leave making it work to us, so you can make a living at the work you would do for free. Midco Business works for you.
This is Mia. She just got paid for doing a research study at Access Clinicals. And because she referred her friend Lucy, she got a bonus check. Now, Lucy's telling all of her friends and neighbors how easy it is to get paid to do many of the things they were doing anyway during a study at Access Clinicals. In fact, Lucy may never look at her friends the same way again. Refer a friend and get $100. Go to accesspays.com or call 218-284-AXIS right now for more details.
They come to us, abandoned, lost, and all alone, in need of care through no fault of their own. They ask so little, but give so much. All they seek in return, a loving home and a gentle touch. They warm your heart with a wet nose kiss or gentle purr, proving that a pet's a gift of love wrapped up in fur. Stop in today at the Homeward Animal Shelter. We'll bring you and your new best friend together.
Hey kids, become a North Dakota Junior Champion today. Kids in 8th grade and younger can join the official Kids Club of North Dakota Athletics for free by visiting any First International Bank and Trust location in North Dakota. Junior Champions membership includes a free t-shirt, free admission to all Fighting Hawks volleyball and men's and women's basketball home games, special ticket discounts for select football and hockey games, exclusive Junior Champions events, and more. Visit any First International Bank and Trust location in North Dakota and become a North Dakota Junior Champion today.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How would you not love him?
National Signing Day continuing here from Grand Forks. Alex Heinert alongside UND offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Paul Rudolph. First off, Rudy, hey, congratulations. Another great signing day for you and the staff. Talk about a little bit, 6 guys on the offensive side of the ball signing today. What do you make of that group that's coming in?
Well, it's a good group, and they've been multifaceted when you come to high school athletics. You know that we think they've got a bright future, best days ahead of them.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. When you look at the position groups, not a lot of diversity. 3 receivers, 3 guys on the offensive line. When you look at the 3 that you're taking up front, I think the thing that really strikes you first is that these are big young men that are only going to get bigger.
Yeah, they are bigger guys. You know, Matt's obviously 6'6" or something, 6'6 and a half, 310 pounds, 320 pounds, right in that range. But at the same token, he's a 3-sport guy. You know, he goes from football to basketball to baseball. And then you throw Donnie in there, who's, you know, he's played every position on that offensive football team for Como Park and played basketball prior to this year and decided he'd give wrestling a shot and is starting for him at heavyweight. And then you got Rain up north, you know, who's been a guy that's been a football guy, but they all possess some size, and the ability to keep improving is what we noticed.
What made these 3 guys kind of jump off the page for you? Was there anything in particular that you said, hey, we really think these guys are North Dakota football players?
Well, I think the thing we liked about Donnie was just the way he competed and all the different positions, and like I said, that he had played, you know, and all the different things that he'd done. We just see him as a guy that's got a real high ceiling. And then Matt's, you know, kind of the same way. He big, long guy that's really got some strength to him already for a big guy. You know, we get him moving his feet, and we think he's got a real bright future. And then Rain is another guy just real hidden up there in a, you know, not such a great football area as far as the where he plays at. But he's came down, and he was one of them under 18 guys and under 16 guys up there in Canada, plays for all those teams, and he's got a bright future.
Yeah, Rain from, by the way, St. Joseph's High School. Brady Oliveira, of course, who's from Manitoba as well, from Oak Park. So not the same high school, but the same area, certainly. Correct. It's been a pretty good pipeline for you guys, finding kids from a couple hours.
Yeah, and Mason Bennett up that way, too. So it's been there's 2 good football players, and we think Rain's got a shot also.
When you look at those 3 offensive linemen, they're joining a offensive line group that had a lot of young underclassmen play a lot last year. Nathan Nguyen and Noah Mortal and Ryan Tobin, those guys started a lot of games. Patrick Rooney's only going to be a junior this year. How do these 3 kind of fit in with the rest of that core? And how, by the way, do you think that young group acquitted themselves last season?
Well, you know, it was obviously those young guys probably weren't quite ready to play as many snaps as they had to play. Sure. But moving forward, those guys that played so many snaps are going to have another great season, or another, you know, even pick up on that ladder and move the season along, and buy some time for these guys in this year's class and the guys in last year's class. Buy them a little bit more time to develop, and then we think we got the defense or the offensive line moving in the direction we want it to move.
Yeah. In terms of playmakers, again, you bring in 3 guys in the receiving core, and Garrett Mogg, Tyler Burian, Noah Sickler, a couple of local kids, and Mogg just from down the road in St. Paul. You can tell, again, another group of big receivers, where last year you kind of brought in some little guys, so kind of mixing it up a little bit this season.
Well, you know, the previous 2 years ago, it was Noah and Travis, you know, a little longer guy. Then it was the little shorter, faster guys a year ago, and then now a little bit longer side of things again. And it's really who we are. I mean, they fit the mold of what we do and what we like to do. And when you watch them, none of them are afraid to be physical and aren't afraid to block. But then the next thing you notice that they all have athleticism that can go up and catch footballs and catch it above their head with a good catch radius. And like I said, they're who we are. They're 3 guys right there that fit our mold of what we like our receivers to look like and what we want our receivers to do.
Yeah, not to single any one of those kids out, but just the word on the street is that Garrett Mogg is a guy who could come in and maybe make a difference sooner rather than later because of his size and some of the polish that he's got already.
Well, yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Athletically, you know, watched him play basketball the other night, and the guy can dunk it any way you want to dunk it. I mean, it's kind of a freak show, really, when you watch things from a dunking standpoint. He's got great athleticism, catches the ball real well. You know, and catches it above his hands, does all those types of things. And he's got a good body type. You know, he's not a slightly built young man. He's got good stature to him already. And, you know, at the same token, now Tyler and Noah both, they're probably still growing into their bodies, you know. I mean, I think they've got probably another growth potential here yet for those 2 guys.
Yeah, that's the kind of things you like to see in those
Absolutely.
receivers that are still growing and figuring themselves out in terms of their body shape. Well, the big question really for this offense this year is going to be who's throwing those guys the football. Keaton Studsrud graduates. You had a couple different players see time under center last year when Keaton was injured. How do you think you're going to go about that process of determining who's going to be the starting quarterback in 2018 for this team?
Well, we're going to try to put those 3 guys in as many different positions as we possibly can throughout the spring and on the board. In meetings and things of that nature, and see how they react to things, and then ultimately see how they go out and perform in the first 15 here in March and April, and then you know, see what kind of progress they can make through April and May and June and July, and then try to put them in those scenarios again once August rolls around, and try to make it the best decision we can make as far as which guy's going to move us in the right direction the quickest, is what it'll amount to.
First time in a couple of years you've had to worry about this. It's been sort of just rolling over number 7 into the starting lineup the last couple of seasons. But
no question about it.
Well, a couple of talented kids, certainly they're going to be vying for that starting quarterback spot.
Yeah, they all three have some, we watched this fall, they all three have some ability. They all have probably a little bit different, maybe some strengths as far as their characteristics go, but looking forward to working with them.
Well, it should be fun to watch that battle take place. Again, a very talented offense that we expect to be on the move again this season. Rudy, thanks again for the time. Good luck getting these guys ready to go for the fall this season.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Paul Rudolph, offensive coordinator. Well, normally we'd be chatting with Rudy's counterpart on the defensive side of the football, but UND D coordinator Eric Schmidt under the weather this morning, so best wishes to Eric. Not a fun time to fall ill, but luckily Joel Schweigert, who's Coach Schmidt's partner in crime in the linebacking corps, gave us a few minutes of his time earlier this week. Joel, also the recruiting coordinator for North Dakota. Here are his thoughts on UND's recruiting mindset and a few words on the 3 outside backers in this class of 2018.
More so in this region in the upper Midwest, that recruiting it's accelerated because it's very competitive. So these kids are getting into recruiting in the early parts of the year, in May and June. These kids are starting to put together their schools that they want to go to, and the recruiting process from there gets accelerated, as opposed to like West Coast, East Coast kids will wait a little bit later in the season and into the fall even to make a lot of their decisions. So it's highly competitive. Obviously the FCS level here in this region is some of the top football in the nation, so it becomes really a competitive area to try and get in on these kids, and it's a lot of talented kids in the upper Midwest that we are all kind of after. So it's a kind of a dogfight there to recruit these kids. We're looking to obviously replenish again with the linebacker position, because so many of those kids that we can't get enough of them actually in our defense. Inside, outside linebackers and safeties are all we kind of almost lump them together, just general athletes on the defensive side of things. We had targeted certain guys early on. Ted Mullen was one of our earliest commits for us, a kid out of Colorado that's a true linebacker. He played it in high school. I know he was really good at it, and we saw him at camp this summer here at our own camp and got to see him. And then from there, with Mike Bruner, Caden White, are some other ones that we've gotten to know. A lot of them have played linebacker, but sometimes we'll look at even kids that are possible safeties that will grow into bodies that will play linebacker for us. We're excited about all 3 of those guys. They are top guys on our board early on that we were able to stay with and be able to recruit through this process and get commitments from. And then we're obviously still looking for a couple more here. Hopefully we can get 1 or 2 more. Inside linebacker is a big position of need. Outside backer, we didn't graduate any, but we still want to try and get guys in to develop, and that's a big position of development there, because it's so much learning and understanding of the defense there.
Big thanks to Joel Schweigert. Moving on now, the state of Wisconsin, fast becoming a pipeline state for North Dakota football, and the big reason why, the presence of receivers coach Danny Freunds and O-line coach Luke Knopf, 2 Wisconsin natives on the current staff.
Wisconsin is a state that has one big, Big Ten school, Division I wise, and they have no other FCS, no Division IIs. So there's a lot of good football played there, not just at the highest divisions. You can find kids throughout the state, from even the lower levels there that, want to play scholarship level football, but, aren't going to get the opportunity to go to Wisconsin. So that's kind of one of the reasons. And then just, in the Midwest, we really want to find guys that fit North Dakota. I think that's a big thing in recruiting, finding the right fit. And you get outside our state and the state of Minnesota, that's kind of the next one over there as far as population goes. So, but just good blue-collar, hard-working kids that, love football. It's important, and kids that want to be at UND.
Let's take a look at the Badger State right now. 15 players from the 2017 roster are from Wisconsin. 5 more signed on for 2018, and not just in one particular area, all over the place. University of North Dakota coaches making an impact. For more now on the new class of Wisconsin signees, here's UND insider Travis Wilson from the Wisconsin Sports Network.
A big reason for it is just kind of the Wisconsin feel that's on not only the team right now, but on the coaching staff as well. There's, of course, a couple coaches that have deep Wisconsin connections there with Danny Freund, who was a record-setting quarterback at Kenosha St. Joseph High School in Wisconsin. And then also Luke Knopf, who went to Stratford High School, one of the top programs in the state, went on to play for the Wisconsin Badgers. Those connections that they have really enabled North Dakota to make a great foothold in the state of Wisconsin. Mike Brunner, a linebacker from Homestead, he actually had very early in the process committed to Iowa, and it was actually their first commit in the 2018 class. And as time kind of went along, just didn't quite work out there with the Hawkeyes, kind of on both sides. And he reopened his commitment in recruitment and got offers from a number of other places. Had a very strong senior year, was excellent as a junior. Very tenacious player, a kid that could play inside or outside depending on the scheme and how his body develops. Plays at one of the best high schools in the state of Wisconsin. Homestead High School has produced numerous Division I players over the years, so you know he's going to be well trained and well prepared to take on a bigger role. And so he's a kid that kind of has that Big Ten pedigree, if you will, and a great pickup kind of late in the process for North Dakota, and maybe the one to keep an eye on the most out of that group. CJ Siegel, outstanding athlete, a receiver, defensive back type. I think they're recruiting him as a defensive back from La Crosse Logan. They tried to get the ball in his hands quite a bit in high school, and he was very dynamic doing that, both as a receiver and a return specialist. I believe North Dakota likes him on the defensive side of the ball. Got great potential over there as well. An outstanding athlete. Wouldn't be surprised if, at some point he works his way into the return game potentially, even if he does stick on that defensive side of the ball. A great athlete that brings some pretty special ability to the table. At least a Division II basketball player. Got some late interest at the Division I level as well. So just an outstanding all-around athlete. Not only from a defensive standpoint, but as I mentioned, potentially at some point maybe with the ball in his hands. Caden White and Caden Koppinen both played offense and defense, receiver and defensive back for Sun Prairie. Both, somewhat similar, I guess you could say. Very good size, maybe a little bit bigger than what you generally see in the secondary at most places. Both are, 6'2", 6'3", very rangy athletes. I saw Sun Prairie play several times this season, and they would put Koppinen actually kind of out on the corner and let him play a lot of press man coverage. White played more of a safety position, but he's an excellent athlete as well. And then both played on offense and were very, very good receivers for the Cardinals as well, and put up some pretty impressive numbers on the offensive side of the ball. Both excellent athletes, very rangy, and again, very versatile and athletic as well to be able to play not only in the secondary on a very good team, and Sun Prairie, by the way, is in the biggest division in Wisconsin, but also to be very good offensively and be big-time playmakers at the receiver position as well. Very good group, a lot of versatility among those kids. Runner basically played at linebacker, but the other three were also all defensive backs and receivers, so good versatility from that respect, and really appreciate the outstanding job that the North Dakota coaches do here in the state of Wisconsin. Danny Freund and Coach Knopf are very well respected and have done a great job kind of flying the flag and representing North Dakota.
Big thanks to Travis Wilson of the Wisconsin Sports Network. One of the Wisconsin recruits that Travis did not touch on, punter Cade Peterson. Cade and long snapper Ross Hinders from Johnston, Iowa, two key gets for a UND team that graduated all three specialists from last year. Here's now special teams coordinator Sean Kostich on the recruiting process for the new specialists.
I think a big emphasis for both those positions were multi-sport and multi-football position athletes, because we felt like we've had the most success with those type of people. So Ross Hinders is somebody that was very tactful in terms of visiting us, because he came to us 2 consecutive years for camp, knowing that Jacob Holman would be graduating. Ross is somebody that not only is a snapper, but he also is the linebacker for his team. He runs down the field on kickoff. This upcoming off-season, he will also be on the rugby team. So there's a lot of different skill sets where you look at that and say, okay, he's not just here to snap. And then from Cade's perspective, Cade's somebody that the punter deal has been a national search. And what we were fortunate to have is when we boiled it down to our top 5 or 6, the guy who was closest to us, we felt like he was the best. And he comes from the Milwaukee area, just an hour north of Milwaukee in Kewaskum, Wisconsin. And he is also somebody that will be a state qualifier in the 200 meter. I mean, there's a very athletic skill set with him as well. And he's not only just the punter, he is a receiver for his team. He's a cornerback. So the word basically from our staff and other kicking coaches when we started circulating and doing the combines is he will have a higher ceiling than most guys because of that athleticism. So just in terms of our experience and what we've had success with, we felt like those 2 individuals were the best fit. And they're already good friends. I think they'll plan to be roommates as well, so those are good things. I think Brady is on track. I think he's exactly what we were hoping You know, where I'm really happy with him is the older guys did a good job training him on terms of what to expect, how to perform, how to conduct yourself. And everything is trending in a very positive way for Brady, but now it's a great opportunity just to do everything that we talked about this time last year. It's like there's a position to be had, you need to go out and grab it and compete for it. And, you know, with him being the only kicker here in spring, he'll have a great opportunity to get better.
Sean Kostic, they're talking about redshirt freshman kicker Brady Leach out of Moorhead, who's got a great chance to be the starting kicker for this team next season. Big thanks to Sean. Still more to come on the UND Signing Day special. Tom Miller of the Grand Forks Herald's joining us after the break to look ahead to the 2018 UND season. Stick around.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all, we approach re-employment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
Donate to Goodwill, where your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community.
At South Dakota State University, we're not just preparing our students to enter the world, we're preparing them to change it. Because whether it's online, around the state, or around campus, when our students finish their studies here, they'll be ready. Ready to care. Ready to grow. Ready to impact. In fact, we don't wonder if our graduates will be ready for the world. We wonder if the world will be ready for them.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No. He's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
North Dakota football team headquarters here in our MidcoSN studios. The boys hanging out. It's been a no muss, no fuss type of morning for these guys. They've done their work already, and names coming in as they expected this morning on National Signing Day. Back here in the studio, Alex Heinert alongside Tom Miller of the Grand Forks Herald, getting set for another season of covering UND football. In the midst of UND basketball, of course, right now, Tom, not a bad weekend for the boys out in Spokane. But we're going to talk football right now before we get to that. First off, your impressions on this signing class of 2018.
Well, I think they did a nice job addressing some of the areas of need that they have with the specialists, defensively, specifically in the secondary. Stuck to some of their traditional recruiting ground, Minnesota, Colorado, and Wisconsin, and yeah, I think those were some keys there.
Yeah, when you look at this class as a whole and you see some of the names and some of the size of some of these kids coming in, you feel like there's a couple of guys who can really make an impact right away as true freshmen.
Yeah, I think, a guy like Mike Bruner out of Wisconsin, seems to have a body type that could play at linebacker early. C.J. Siegel out of Wisconsin seems to be a very athletic kid who could see time at corner. Garrett Mogg out of Minnesota is a big athletic wide receiver who can jump. So those are a few guys that I think we'll get a look to play right away. Other than, I guess, obviously the specialists.
Yeah. At the same time, of course, and this was a great point someone made earlier today. When you look at some of the Pro Bowl selections in the NFL the other day, a couple of the area guys. When you look at Adam Thielen, guy was not a big-time recruit going to Minnesota State Mankato, and now he's a star in the NFL. So even though you weren't necessarily a big name today, doesn't mean you're not going to have a great career, certainly at the college or even the pro level.
And you could even lump in, Carson Wentz, with the Eagles, who came out of Bismarck. So there's a lot of kind of diamonds in the rough in this area, whether it's Canada or Minnesota or North Dakota. There's kind of some under-recruited kids.
So just because we didn't talk about you at length this morning does not mean it's not going to be a good year for you here in Grand Forks in the future. You've got some thoughts on who's going to be our starting crew on both offense and defense for this North Dakota team next season. Let's take a look at our starting 11 on offense from Tom Miller. This is it's going to be an interesting year. New quarterback, a couple of new guys on the offensive line. Talk me through why you think Nate Kedringham's got the inside track to be the starting Q this year.
I just think he's a guy who's proven that he can get it done in the Big Sky. Zimmerman came in last year and provided some opportunities to kind of show that he can provide something at quarterback. And then there's I think the staff is still quite high on Brock Boltman. So I still think it's a three-man race, but you have to give Kedringham the edge just considering everybody's seen him do it in the Big Sky.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race to watch. Certainly one of the big storylines entering the 2018 season. On defense, when we throw up that graphic, you see a lot of names of guys that people maybe forget. Deion Harris, that's right. He's an All-American that is coming back next year. Guys like Donnell Rogers that didn't play much of the season. There's a lot of names on that list that missed significant time. They're going to make a big impact on this team in 2018.
Yeah, when people talk about, what are UND's prospects in 2018, I kind of remind them it's almost like having a great recruiting class. Yeah. With all the guys they get back from injury, whether it's a Donnell Rogers or a Deion Harris, guys we didn't really get to see much at all last year. Even Evan Holm, Cam Hunt, some of those guys didn't get a full shake at 2017. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get back up to speed health-wise and mentally and all that.
Yeah, well, spring ball's coming up before we know it. Fall camp's going to be here, and pretty soon it'll be Mississippi Valley State on the last Thursday in the month of August. Tom, thanks again for your time this morning. Enjoy hoops for the rest of the year. We'll see you soon. We mentioned the spring and the fall as you take a look again. The second National Signing Day coming up at the start of February. UND spring game, always a lot of fun on April the 13th. Early August, players will report for camp, and then North Dakota versus Mississippi Valley State at home, a home game to start the season this year on a Thursday night at the Alerus Center. Quick look at the rest of that schedule. Again, North Dakota, a D1 FCS independent in 2018, but still playing a Big Sky schedule for 2 more years until they join the Valley in 2020. A couple of big-time games, both at home and away. Certainly still a chance to get in on the action. Season tickets starting at $94 at the Alerus Center. Be sure to check that out on UNDsports.com. And a reminder tonight, 6 to 7 o'clock, Midco Sports Tonight, a signing day special, a great chance to look at everything happening around the Dakotas. Be sure to tune in here on MidcoSN tonight from 6 to 7. And that'll do it for now. A big thanks again to the UND coaching staff for posting up here all morning. A lot of happy coaches in that war room right now. Special thanks, of course, to our MidcoSN staff, Darren Lean, Marty Mueller, Mike Derman, Jack Neeson, Jake Tracy, Rod Scheuer, Quentin Coulter, and our entire engineering team for making this show possible. I'm Alex Heinert saying thanks for watching. Congrats again to all the new members of the Fighting Hawk football family. A day to remember and to be proud of.